Hello, one and all, and welcome back to the ULM Dynasty. This is episode 6 of our Dynasty with the Indians at the helm of the Indians, and we have ourselves a contract extension. So, even though we haven't really done much impressive, we have already won a bowl game, which, as I said previously, that has never happened for this program. So we're already kind of like the Woody Hayes, the Jim Harbaugh of this program. And yeah, despite not really achieving much of anything, we did actually achieve the goals that they set forward for us in our first few years. So we've gotten a couple bowl bids, we've already won the Sun Belt, and we've increased the prestige of the program. So we're actually in a pretty solid role here within our first few seasons, even though we got blown out in our last bowl game, which we will go over after we, of course, go over our stats for the year. So we split time between two quarterbacks this year, probably due to injury, and I always forget to turn off injuries, or I didn't do it in the Northwestern Dynasty, and that kind of had some weird results, and I probably should have done it for this one just because I hate how it always has your quarterbacks get injured for like at least some chunk of time. It's really stupid, but anyway, that's how the numbers play out. I guess it's kind of a wash as far as quarterbacks are concerned, but running the football, we did have Young rush for 805 yards and 7 touchdowns. This is pretty good. And our fullback was just a hair away from 400 yards. So running the football, I never get too concerned about that. But 2 receivers posting over 800 yards seasons. Not terrible, but Elijah Spence, it is a regression for him. Not so much a regression, just a down year for him. Brad Williams has a pretty solid year, kind of doubles the production there, gives up a handful more sacks, but still a pretty solid season for him. Ray Daniel, also a pretty efficient season as well. There's a couple guys on the O-line that didn't do all that terrible, and remember, stat-wise, we're still not like the best with overall, so Brad Watkins puts up 94 tackles to lead the team. Jay Dyer puts up 17 TFLs to lead the team, as well as 6 sacks that will also lead the team. And then Eddie Pruitt, his 5 picks are going to lead our team on defense. So I like a lot of those numbers I just said, especially the 94 tackles. That's pretty nuts. I didn't think we'd get anything close to that. And then Deion Davis has another pretty abysmal season as a kicker, or it's his first season. Our freshman kicker has a bad freshman year. So we're going to look over All-Americans. We probably don't get any more nods again because why would we? I feel like in NCAA 04 with the Northwestern Dynasty, it was pretty generous with the All-American selections. Even when we weren't that good, we'd still at least get like one position. Like we had one guy, and our defender who had 94 tackles. You'd think he'd at least be somewhere in this conversation as an All-American. But yeah, no, it's not going to happen. And also, this game does not do the freshman All-Americans. It only does first and second team, and NCAA 04 does freshman All-Americans. So if we don't have any guys who are good enough to be on the first or second team, then they're not going to get any looks at all. And we have, of course, a young team with a lot of freshmen on there. So, yeah, I guess it makes sense. There's a lot of upperclassmen throughout college football that are probably putting up better seasons than we are on our team here in Monroe. So that's fine. We'll live with that. So. And now we're going to move over now to the stat rankings and see how we fared in the grand scheme of college football. So even our conference ranks is not that good. And remember, we won our conference. So for all these 4th and 5th numbers and even 6th, there you go. See, we were the last. We're in sacks allowed. So, yeah, pretty brutal as far as that's concerned. But we won the Sun Belt and have all these pretty low numbers. We don't have any like firsts or anything. We have a few seconds, but yeah, overall, I guess we really weren't that great of a team. I mean, we were 7-6. We started the year off pretty bad, but it was really within our own conference that we were able to salvage the season and actually do something halfway decent. So to see all these low numbers is kind of funny, considering that we were able to go 5-1 in conference and actually manage to win it. So, a lot of these stats anyway, I've said before in the past in other series on my channel that, you kind of have to take a lot of them with a grain of salt just because of how the sim works and everything like that. Like it's goofy, it's weird. But on turnovers, it looks like this might have been where our team really thrived. We were first and second in a lot of these. So maybe that's where we really kind of stood up. So looking over all of our bowl games here now, North Texas from our conference makes it to a bowl game, but they do lose it. So It's probably the only other nod we're going to get. I don't know how much room there actually is in this current format of college football for the Sun Belt to get teams in it. Like, I think maybe first and second place in the Sun Belt might be the only teams that could probably make it to a bowl game. But of course, if we had 3 or 4 teams that had better than 6-6 or 5-7 records, that might change. But as for right now, us at 7-6, or finishing 7-5 in the regular season, and of course, North Texas finishing 6-6, that's about as good as it's going to get. So looking over the rankings here, TCU's in the top 5, which is interesting. The rest of the top 10 is pretty familiar, a lot of familiar faces. Louisville's also good around this time, so they're up here. Syracuse coming in at 12 is interesting. Maryland here rounds out the top 15 after losing their bowl game. Rice sneaks in at 18. I saw them in a bowl game. That's kind of wild. Purdue sneaks in the rankings after not being ranked, and so does Utah. And Illinois is going to round out the top 25, sneaking in after beating Tulsa in their bowl game. So here's a look at the Sun Belt standings. We beat North Texas out by just a game. I can't remember if we beat them during the season or not. It might not have mattered if they finished 5-1 or not, but and then New Mexico and Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee State maybe already starting that regression. Remember, they were kind of at the top of things the first year or two, and now they're already kind of down. So, the Sun Belt doesn't look to be getting a whole lot better, and we seem to be leading the charge of what is getting better with the conference. So, taking a look now at everyone who is leaving. It's all of the kind of last remaining unnamed, numbered players from our first season. A lot of these guys are getting out. It's not a ton of players. We're not losing a lot. But there are still some pretty key contributors on our roster here that are leaving. So, it's always going to be a blow because we don't have a ton of depth. We don't have a ton of anything. There's a couple guys you're seeing who have 0 stats from their senior season because we've already replaced them with recruiting. So that's kind of the thing we're going for, the new look Indians, So looking over our recruiting class, we got ourselves a handful of 4 stars. This is our biggest recruiting class yet. We're really bringing in a nice influx of talent. There's even a ton of 3 stars coming with us too, and this is really because of the prestige. That's really it. Because going up to 2 prestige after winning our first bowl game didn't really give us a ton of leverage in terms of recruiting, but getting up to 3 stars, even though we lost our bowl game, that gave us a big push as far as recruiting goes. So Marshall tops things off here in the entire country, which is interesting. The top 10 in recruiting, it kind of resembles the actual top 10 at the end of last season, so nothing too shocking there. Miami just dropped to 13, though, which is interesting. UNLV and Syracuse are also here. So is Baylor, which is nice. They are always pretty bad in these, so BYU comes in at 20. You got Georgia and USC, and then Penn State, Purdue. We got 3 Big Ten teams rounding out the top 25 in recruiting. They come in here in the last 3 spots. So that is how your top 25 goes. And then, of course, we come in here at 34. We climb all the way up to 34 because we have 6 4 stars and 7 3 stars. So I've been trying to keep up with how, that's all worked with recruiting and whatnot. So that is about 9 points higher or 11 points higher than last year. We were 45 last year, so we're moving up every single year. We've moved up significantly. So here are the training results. We're finally starting to see some overall, some numbers that are what I want to see. We're getting away from the 50s and 60s. We still obviously have some all over the team. We're not completely fixed yet, but we have a lot of guys who are in the low to mid 70s. So if we can get, really every position at least around there, then I think 8 or 9 win season might be on the table. That's crazy to say because it's still not very good, but you have to consider what we're up against. You know what I mean? We're playing in the Sun Belt every year, and I don't know if ultimately I want to leave the Sun Belt and go to a Power 5. I think that's ultimately what I'm going to do because that'd probably be what's most fun, right? Is eventually getting ULM and like the SEC or like the Big 12 or something. Like that would be fun. But for now, I want to see if we can really cement ourselves as a perennial contender of the Sun Belt. Which is not going to be difficult. We should be able, we may already be there. You know what I mean? We went 500 last year and still won the conference. So if it's going to be that easy to do it, then there shouldn't be a reason why we don't win it every single year, especially with the conference remaining as bad as it is. So But looking over the roster here, as you can see, like all our guard position, there's nothing under a 71. So we've already kind of really upgraded that position, which is important because we give up a ton of sacks. So we need a better O-line. It needs to get better every single season, as well as the entire rest of the team. I still don't think we have really any bright spots as far as like skill position players go, but we now have a little bit of freedom to start cutting some of the lesser players that we're getting. We still have to take a good bit of 1 and 2 stars, and those guys are all in the 50s. So having the freedom to do that, because the team's getting slowly but surely a little bit better, is a good position to be in. So but yeah, there's a lot of familiar faces we're going to be coming back here. Raymond McFarland, as far as we're concerned, is still going to start things off for us at quarterback. And then Elijah Spence is also still here in the receiving core. Like I said, there's going to be a few familiar faces here. We're going to move around the O-line a bit because we do have a bit of a wealth of talent. Most of the 4-star recruits we've gotten, or any of the big recruits I've gotten, have all been at that position. A lot of tackles. We're getting a lot of tackles help. And of course, Dyer's going to be here. He's going to be our second defensive tackle. We're going to move him in. We're going to slot him in because or just kind of move things around. Because again, we got the talent. So Dyer, who's one of our bigger contributors on defense, is going to get kind of shuffled around, or you might not even see the field that much because we're getting a little bit better. So and then Pruitt, who led the team in interceptions, is going to be our second cornerback. He's going to be on the other side there. So we're gearing up here as we're closing out our off season. We're going to take a look here at the schedule ahead and hopefully get back to some winning football here. So our out-of-conference schedule, as it appears now, is San Jose State, Troy State, Toledo, and New Mexico. I'm trying to funnel in a couple more home games because as a Sun Belt team, we're basically the pup team that travels everywhere to get beat. But we're a better program now, so I'm going to try and funnel in more home games. But that's going to do it for episode 6. In the next video, we're going to cover year 4. So I hope to see you guys there as we tackle that on.